to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who are doing a deep dive into a book series, one book at a time. Right now, we are shiting on the Wheel of Time. And today we will be discussing The Boys of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series, the fifth book, The Fires of Heaven. But before that, Laura, what have you been reading, watching, and or enjoying?
Okay, Hannah. So I'm still on my Disney Plus journey. We watched Raya and the Last Dragon. It was really good.
I've heard good things about that from my sister and her children.
I don't know why it's not getting more hype. Some of these Disney movies that people are talking a lot about, I don't understand. And some of them that they're not talking about, I don't understand because people are not talking about Luca enough. People are not talking about Raya and the Last Dragon enough. And I think they were both really good.
You are not on TikTok, my friend, because lots of people are talking about them on TikTok.
Maybe I should get on there to talk about all my Disney love.
I think that would be good for you, actually. I have some accounts you could follow. But I think that's the problem with Disney. I think we've talked about this before. Disney doesn't market its best, its best things. Like, it just doesn't focus on them as well as they should.
It markets Cruella.
Yeah.
Obsessively.
No, they only market things like Cruella because they can make money off of it. They put a ton of money into like these big, huge live action films. So then they have to make that money back. So they're going to market Cruella more than they're going to market other things.
Here's my thing. All of their live action things so far have not been near as good as their animated things. So why keep beating that dead horse? Why?
Because it's a moneymaker, because people are still buying it, because like people like the millennials or whatever are supposed to be buying it, and it's just like, can we stop? Can we actually make new content? Like yeah, my sister
I'll
really
admit
liked
that
Raya.
I have been excited about some of the the Beauty and the Beast, the live action one. I have been excited about some of those live action movies when they came out. However, upon seeing them, I instantly was not excited anymore because they're not good.
They're not. It's just not good anymore.
It's a nostalgia thing, but now whenever they announce a new one coming out, I just kind of cringe a little bit because I just don't want them to ruin it with one of these live action ones.
I do really want to watch a cartoon. I think it's hard. Like, I don't know why, but I always feel like it's kind of a bummer to sit by myself as a 30-year-old woman watching Raya and the Last Dragon for the first time.
That's why Disney Plus is perfect, because you can sit in your home and feel no shame watching Disney Plus.
That's true. But are you also watching these with your husband? Like, I think there's something about a cartoon you want to be with people while you're watching it.
I mean, does it count if he falls asleep?
It does, because you're starting it with the intention of him watching it with you.
Okay.
And then he falls asleep. But like when you're just sitting on your couch and it's like a Thursday night, it's just kind of a bummer to be like, I guess I'll sit down and watch a cartoon.
I guess.
I need to find.
I have such a strong love of Disney movies that I guess it doesn't bother me.
There is a well-known story. Did you ever see the cartoon Snow White #2?
No.
Well, there was.
I saw
one.
the Pocahontas #2, which
no,
why?
But this wasn't a Disney.
And the Little Mermaid #2, which
no, but
why? This wasn't a Disney one?
No, it wasn't a Disney one. But I actually really liked the Little Mermaid too when I was younger.
Okay, well, that's on you.
No, it wasn't a Disney one. It was just like a off-brand Snow White, where like the prince, she thinks he dies at the beginning, but then she like is trying to get to like another queen or something. I forget what the premise is, but then you meet the dwarfettes, who are the cousins of the dwarves. And there is a story that I used to watch this movie so often. I do not remember the plot now, but there was a day where the VCR, I'm very old, ate my cassette tape of Snow White 2, the off-brand Disney version. And I started crying and sitting and putting my fists against the TV going, give me my movie back. Give me my movie back. And my sisters love telling that story.
Hannah, I don't know how to feel about this story.
Guys, I'm really tired. I didn't get much sleep last night.
Would you say that Snow White was one of your favorite Disney movies?
No, it wasn't the Snow White movie. It was the Snow White #2.
Okay, well, because here's my thing. If somebody told me like Snow White was my favorite Disney movie, I'd be like, that's kind of an interesting choice.
It was definitely like I had different stages in life. There are lots of embarrassing stories about me with Disney movies, but
lots of embarrassing stories about Disney movies.
I I know two off the top of my head because I was the
Oh my
youngest
gosh.
child. I had a lot of time alone. I had a very active imagination. So I'm not going to share any of the others because they are actually
Yet.
embarrassing. No,
Yet.
I just won't share them. But I was a
Yet.
Disney kid. No, I would say Belle was my favorite one as I got older, but I also went through
Mhm.
like an Aladdin phase. I went through a Mulan phase. I had two different Mulan Barbies growing up, and I only had one sister who played Barbies with me because, again, I was very much younger than all my sisters. And one of them looked like she was kung fu, like you could move her arms, so she could
Yeah.
actually fight.
She was jointed.
And one was like the quote unquote pretty one. And so my sister and I always played with the Barbies, and we always pretended that Milan had an evil twin or like an evil stepsister who looked a lot like her. And we used the one who could fight to be the good girl and the one who was pretty to be the bad girl because feminism.
Can't trust them when they're attractive.
Can't trust the pretty ones. And then I also had a Jasmine doll. You know about this. I was very poor growing up, people. And so I had a ton of Barbies, but like sometimes if a Barbie like loses its head, like the head
Oh,
would
I
be
know this
broken
story.
or the body would be broken, but not both usually. Like you could usually use another one. And I was too poor to like be tossing away Barbies when they broke. So we just had a tote full of half, like either a decapitated head or just a body of a Barbie. And as an adult, all I could think is that is the creepiest thing to walk into a child's house and they just have a tote of decapitated Barbies. But the real purpose was to repurpose my Barbies when their heads fell off. But then my Jasmine doll once lost her head, and then we had to put her on a white Barbie. And I think that is problematic as an adult.
Yeah, the repurposing didn't work out too well there,
It
but
did not. I also had a John Smith doll, not a Pocahontas. So he was always evil because John Smith was ugly. Let's
well,
face
he's
it.
kind of a scary character.
Yeah. So we always made him
And it was
evil.
Mel Gibson, so it fits.
It fits. I really lived up to it with that particular choice. But then I didn't have an Aladdin doll. So we always just used the prettier Ken doll that I had. So,
Yeah, that works.
and then we did have a Shang-Li doll. So my life was very.
Okay, out of the Disney princes, who did you have the biggest crush on? Or princesses? Out of Disney royalty, who did you have the biggest crush on as a kid?
Aladdin. I have to say Aladdin.
Aladdin, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of my embarrassing stories that I won't share.
I have a worse one. The Beast.
Okay, I think
when he turned back into a human, I was like, oh, I kind of liked him as a beast better.
Okay, well, he's my number two. I think he's a lot of people's number twos.
Yeah, and this was something that I like came to revelation because I saw a meme on Instagram where someone else said this, and I was like, okay, I thought I was the only one that was creepy and liked the Beast.
You're not the only one. I was definitely on that. You know who was also kind of hot in the animal kingdom?
Simba?
Yes, but Kovu from Lion King 2.
Simba's Pride?
Simba's Pride. Yes, he was very attractive for a lion.
For a cartoon lion, yes. I completely agree.
Guys, we're going to go on the record that Laura and I are both tired for this conversation.
Okay, I'm just going to say, though, if Disney didn't want us to think that, if you ever, like, sat there and thought about how they drew the Can You Feel the Love Tonight scene where, like, the lions, like, kind of lean back or whatever and look at each other, like, okay, that's very sexual for cartoon lions that little kids are watching. Like, okay, that...
If you don't follow us on Twitter, every Friday I post a Graham Norton clip that nobody asked for. I just provide to the people because I think they should, watch some more Graham Norton clips.
He should be out there.
But Friday I will post one where people on the Graham Norton show have this exact same conversation that we're having right now.
Awesome.
So I will look that up. And someone does say, in his defense, they draw those characters very sexy. So
they do.
Yes, they do. No, I will say that the Beast when I was older, but like as a little kid, when you don't know what crushes mean, I was all about Aladdin,
Fair enough.
So I mean, he had a magic carpet. So,
and he was Steve from Full House.
Exactly. That's not why I was attracted to him, but
I also liked Steve on Full House. So
I didn't watch Full House when I was little because I didn't have cable. So I like only watched it when I was older. And then I think I was like past the point where Steve would have been attractive.
Yeah. Well, and now if I watch Full House, I'm like, okay, this is just a little too cheesy for me to watch. But
have you
as
ever
a little kid, I was like, okay, Steve.
But have you
I
ever
see you.
watched Fuller House?
I have not watched Fuller House. I cannot bring myself to do it.
I am very ashamed to say the person who's like, I don't really watch reality TV. I've watched every single season of Fuller House, and
Wait, reality TV? It's reality TV?
no, it's not reality TV. But I'm just saying,
Oh.
like, I am someone who's like, oh, I don't really like Lifetime and Hallmark and like reality TV. Like, I'm not
Hmm.
like dogging on anyone who likes that. It's just
Hmm.
not for me. But I have watched every single season of Fuller House, and it was terrible. Don't watch it.
You know what? My mom loves Hallmark, and I tend to tease her about it because I'm like, okay, you can call the ending of this movie or TV show within the first 2 minutes. There's going to be some kind of town festival. They'll have to save the town. Two star-crossed lovers or girl from the big city comes home and meets her high school sweetheart that they broke up with like right after they graduated or something, and they don't get along at first but then reconnect during the saving the town period of time, and then they fall in love and decide to live together or whatever. It's all like the same type of thing. But I will say that every now and then I don't mind watching a Hallmark movie just because it has that familiarity that you know how it's going to go, and there's something comfortable about that, to knowing how it's going to end.
I get that. And that was Fuller House I watched because I was just like, I guess I want to know what happens, but I would not recommend it to anyone who actually didn't want to waste their time watching a very stupid show.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time on it. It's very dumb. But what do
Instead,
you
watch Love is Blind on Netflix and just be shocked by these people.
see? Laura and I just wasted our time on two different shows. That's what
Yeah.
happened there.
Hmm.
So pick your poison. Laura, what are you reading lately?
I started Discovery of Witches, and I am not very far into it, but I'm a little nervous because Hannah, it's a vampire story, and you know how I feel about vampires.
I know I did.
And witches, I don't like vampire stories, so I'm nervous that I'm not going to like this book.
I just saw a TikTok that said it was very Stephanie Myers, but I also heard
Mm.
that it's better written Stephanie Myers. So
I
I
mean,
don't.
so far, I'm literally only 60 pages in, so it's kind of hard to judge a 600-page book when you're only 10% in.
We'll tune in next week to see if
But
Laura
so far,
finishes.
it seems better than the Stephanie Myers.
It doesn't take much. Again, I also recently saw a TikTok where the girl started just drawing the clothes that are described in Stephanie Meyer's book. And she like draws Bella's like khaki skirt and blouse that she meets Edward's family in. And it's like the frumpiest outfit you could ever see. And they were like, this is where Robert Pattinson's character tells her she's indecent or something like that. It's just like nothing about it.
It's like she got that at Old Navy
in the early 2000s.
Hannah, have you and I had this conversation about the casting for the movies of Twilight?
No.
I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but there's been a lot of controversy about Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart as Bella and Edward because people complain about how they don't think that they did a very good job and that they're very bland actors in that movie. However, I think for what they were doing and what they were given as source material, they did it perfect.
Those were some bland characters. I don't know what you're talking
what
about.
could you have asked them to do? I think they did exactly what they were supposed to do, and Kristen Stewart did just fine portraying Bella. I don't know what people wanted of them.
They wanted something more than a burlap sack of flour because that's what the material wanted them to be.
They wanted a different book, I think.
Yeah, like that's what you, or you want them to be like more sexual, but it's also teenagers. So like,
well, if you wanted more sexual, go to True Blood. I mean,
yeah, especially when this is like a book written by a Mormon woman who like definitely told them not to have sex before marriage. Like, it's not actually anything.
I don't know. I can't remember who I was talking to this about, but we both agreed that it was like a stupid critique because they were giving nothing with those
they were giving
books.
Nothing.
And really, for what they had to work on, they did a great job portraying those characters.
I agree. Thank you for telling me that. That was a dumb take for whoever had it. Sorry.
I know. I just don't agree. I think that a lot of my thoughts on some of these books are clouded by nostalgia of the time that they came out and being excited for new books in a series to come out. This was something that was like such a big part of my childhood. Like I remember like one of the things I loved most about the Harry Potter series was that you had to wait for a new book to come out, and there was just all this buildup and excitement trying to figure out what the next book was going to be about, what was going to happen, who was going to
Yeah.
do this. And there were parties at bookstores. I went to the parties at the bookstores, and there was the same type of fandom with Twilight as well. And I think that a lot of people, and self included, got wrapped up in all the hype and the excitement of the new books being released. And it was just kind of a thing of the time.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I never dressed up for Harry Potter thing, but I did like go to the release, one or two release parties. I
Sure.
remember once my mom went to like the Walden Books to get me the Harry Potter book early, and they didn't tell her you had to sign up for a list. So then when she went to get their day of, she couldn't get one. And I was like heartbroken because we were going on vacation that day, and it was like an 8-hour drive, and I was supposed to be reading it. And then we called the local bookstore that you know of, and they were like, we have 2 copies left. Get here in the next 15 minutes. And so they got us one, and I was so happy. And all of my cousins were incredibly jealous that I had a copy already. And, like there are pictures of me like hugging it. It was the 4th book in the series.
The 4th?
Like, yeah. And it was very important to me.
I remember when the 5th one came out, I read that in a day.
Oh my God.
I rarely can read that fast, but that was just a thing of the time. You just had to consume it so fast and figure out what was going to happen.
Right. Oh God, that was fun. And I wrote Harry Potter fanfics. So
you've mentioned that, Hannah.
Yeah, I know.
We would love to bring those up. We'll have to do an episode on those. We'll have to
find We will not look those up.
We'll have a guest on and we'll read Hannah's fanfic and discuss the characters.
Not be friends with you anymore. The podcast would be over.
You know, it would be amazing if I could just be such an internet sleuth that I could find this fan fiction.
I'm literally begging you for my own privacy. Like I'm never, like Laura knows this about myself. I'm never that embarrassed about stuff I've done in my past. Like I'm just not someone who is embarrassed that I was that person at one point. Like I'm really not embarrassed I am at that point. I don't want someone to like read the words I wrote when I was 16 and like really, really dorky. Let's not do that and say we did.
Fine. I'll find someone else's one. Just say it's yours.
You can find my sister's. My sister was the one who got me into writing fan fiction. We could read my sister's fanfic and not tell you who it was.
I don't care whose fan fiction it is. I think we should read it and discuss it. Maybe we'll have to do some Wheel of Time fan fiction instead.
Oh, that's
a little more on point, I guess.
Oh my gosh. If someone wants to guest with a show with us and we read some Wheel of Time fan fiction, that would be.
Or if you have some Wheel of Time fan fiction, especially like some really off the wall good ones, please send them our way. Like, yes, immediately send them our way.
That would be a ton of fun. And thank you. Okay.
Yes. Okay, Hannah, this has gone off the rails here.
Yes,
what have you been reading and watching?
Well, lucky for you, I haven't been able to watch much. I've been rewatching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's so funny. People should.
I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Charles is my favorite.
Oh my! Of course, Charles would be your favorite. That's so funny.
I love Charles.
Who's your favorite character on The Office? Just
on The Office. Get into it. Okay, you know what? Every time I watch shows that I watch all the time, I connect with a different character, and I think anymore when I watch it, I think, okay, Jim is kind of mean. He's kind of a bully. Don't really like him as much. Michael is so problematic, and it's hard to listen to some of the things that he says, but he's still lovable. But I think I'm just going to say that Dwight is my favorite of The Office.
You're like a Dwight Charles person.
Yeah, I guess like the unlovable secondary character.
My favorite is Creed.
Okay, Creed is amazing.
He is my favorite character. I will die on that hill, but probably for Brooklyn Nine-Nine, it's definitely Holt. I think Holt is so funny. Holt and Kevin's dynamic where like
they are funny.
I just got done with the episode where they go about Holt's day and they go to his art painting class and they're like, what does he paint? A bowl of fruit or something? And he goes, this white rock. The
I
end of
still think the funniest cold open on Brooklyn Nine-Nine is when they try to prank Holt by moving the podium and they just move it slightly and they're like, he's not even going to notice that. And then he comes in and he notices it and just laughs. And it's the funniest thing because it's not even a good prank, but he thinks it's hilarious because
it's so funny.
he has such a
My
boring
favorite
life.
my favorite is still Amy's 3 minutes late and they're all taking bets and Holt's like, there was a long line at the bank. And then she's like, she comes in and they're like, why were you late? She's like, I'm only a couple minutes late. And Holt is like, Officer Santiago, tell us right now. And she goes, there was a line at the bank. And he goes, hot damn.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine is so good.
So that's all I've been watching. But also, if you guys want a new recommendation, just so you know, season 2 of Never Have I Ever is dropping on Netflix this week. And Hannah's a huge Mindy Kaling fan. She's like right behind Sarah Bareilles in my mind. So I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited. It looks like it's going to be a hot mess of a season. Probably not as good as the first season, which was just like TV show excellence from what I've seen. But people should still watch the first season because it's amazing.
Yeah.
It deals with all of Hannah's things, like grief in a really funny way. So, and then for reading, it's a much longer list because I just went on vacation. So on my way back from vacation, I listened to the audiobook of The Silent Patient because Laura really wanted me to read it.
Yeah.
I will say that I didn't guess the ending, but I knew the theme of the ending. I sent you a Marco Polo about this because I don't want to give too many spoilers, but I was like, the only way this novel works is if X is happening in the background, you know? And then that kind of led into the ending. And I was like, oh, I'm not technically like, I think it was well done because this did happen, but I'm not shocked by it.
So The Silent Patient was one of those when I read it, I really liked it. And I think it's one of those that I'm kind of attached to because I think it's a well done thriller versus a lot of the thrillers that are super popular, like The Woman in the Window,
Lock Every Door,
that I don't think are very good. And I think The Silent Patient was good. And so I was so nervous because I was like, oh gosh, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just as bad as The Woman in the Window.
No, and it's not as bad as The Woman in the Window. I will
say, I thought it was like in my mind, it was easily like a 3.5 or 4-star read.
I would say same. The problem with like some of these thrillers coming out is they keep using a therapist as the catalyst who is like inappropriate with people who aren't their patients or are their patients. And as someone who's been in therapy for 12 years of their life, like that's not how therapy works. And like as someone who lives with a therapist, that's not how therapy works. Like it bothers her when she reads that. It's like me with courtroom scenes. Like sometimes like, even if a courtroom scene is silly, I can like lose myself in it. But when it's so bad, like the night of when they got to the courtroom scenes where the girl was questioning a witness, I got so mad, mostly because someone said that she reminded them of me. Like they were like, she reminds me of you. And I watched the courtroom scene and I was like, I hope it's not their like accuracy as an attorney because that means I should quit my job forever. Like, yeah. But stuff like that. So some of that stuff just like seems off-putting with thrillers. And I hate that it's going that way because like people, that's not how mental health works. Your therapist usually has very strict boundaries with you. But that's my only thing I will say about that. And then
I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad it wasn't like a total flop for you.
It was definitely not a total flop. I also read His Only Wife. It's about a woman getting married to a man in Ghana where like he has a girlfriend, but his family doesn't approve. So he accepts this wife and he's like saying he's going to break up with the girlfriend to please his family, but he's not doing it. And the woman is like living in this like rich apartment and he's coming to see her, but he refuses to like get this other woman out of his house. And there's like this back and forth. And it's a lot about the culture there because like there you can have multiple wives. It's very family oriented. So seeing the dynamics of the different family working together, it's very quick, very well done. I thought it was very interesting. So good. Learning about something new.
Fiction?
It is fiction.
Okay.
But that was a great book. I read it in like a day. And then last night I started beach read at like 7 p.m. and then proceeded to stay up until after midnight to finish this book. And I liked it so much. It's a romance novel.
A lot of people like beach read. It's all over Instagram.
So I know not many people who listen to us are into romance. Hannah is a super big romantic blob on the inside, like not in my actual romantic life, but like when I
Hmm.
read about
Hmm.
romance, it makes me feel so happy and it's so
Hmm.
cute. And this had everything and more. And I loved it. It did have a dead parrot in it. So I did cry during
Hmm.
it, because as I'm wont to do. But
Hmm.
so amazing. It's just, I just love it so much. Like
See,
Laura,
that's how you should feel though about it. Like that's the whole point of books is to invoke emotions in us and to make us feel things and bring us joy. So that's great that you got that reaction.
yes, I am very big into romantic comedies. I grew up on them. I don't watch many anymore unless they're really well done. But like this was well done. It was a
Hmm.
little too spicy for Laura. So Laura, wait till next year to put it on your TBR.
Bridgerton spicy or
No, there's only like 4 or 5 spicy scenes, but it's a
okay,
300
maybe I
page
can handle it.
novel. But they're pretty spicy. Except there is one trope that I like. I texted our friend about this, Veronica. I hate when someone says he kissed the tears from her face, because isn't that the
Ew.
most disgusting thing you've ever heard?
Well,
It
considering
happens.
I said ew before you even finished the sentence, I would say yes.
It happens a lot in romance novels where a woman will be crying and then it's like he kissed the tears from her face, and I'm like, who wants that? Who like
Okay, well,
who?
I am an ugly crier. And usually when I'm crying, I don't want anyone to see me even. Like I'll if I start crying in public or like if I'm crying in a movie and my husband is here, he'll like look at me or whatever and I'm like, "Don't look at me." And the last thing I would want him to do is be like, "Here, let me kiss the tears off your face." I'd be like, "Get away from me."
It's also just like having someone in your face as you're crying feels way
Yeah, it's
too.
like I can't
It's
see. Get out of my
I'm incredibly overwhelmed.
get
And
out of
like
my bubble.
and then she like at this point there one small spoiler, skip 30 if you don't want to hear, it's not actually a spoiler. She like sobs and then they begin to make out afterwards, and I'm like, the way she was sobbing, she needs a tissue and a glass of water. She does not need
So
someone
have
to
you
start making
ever
out with her.
let me just ask you this. Have you ever been sobbing and someone has comforted you and you started making out? Because I don't think I could do it. Like I would
That's
not
the
be able to. Again, I am an ugly crier. And so I'm just picturing myself with the snot coming out of my nose, tons of tears, and I'm like, I would not want to kiss anyone.
exactly. So I just hated that because like I've been upset, like an ex-boyfriend has like kissed me while we were like talking, but like not like I've sobbed. Like that's
Not
just
like sobbing and he's like, here, come make out with me. It'll be better.
it's just so gross. And that was my only time where I was reading it. It was kind of like it's supposed to be a hot scene. And I was like, I'm way too
Hmm.
distracted by the logistics of what just happened
Like,
to like,
oh,
don't do this to her at this point. Like, leave her alone, get her a
her
tissue cup for
nose is
her, give her,
running.
yeah,
Ew.
like nobody wants this. It's not okay. Stop. Like,
Ew.
so that is the one scene where I wasn't exactly into it, but the rest of
Yeah.
it, incredibly sweet. It's about a writer whose dad just died. She goes to a beach house she never knew about, to try to write. And the guy next door to her was her quote unquote rival during college, who she thought
Okay.
was super pretentious. And they agree to try to write each other's style of novel and like teach each other about it. And,
That's cool.
it's very
I like that
cute.
premise.
Highly recommend. Very sweet and well done. Oh, also sometimes with like miscommunications in romance novels, they
Hmm.
they always put one too many miscommunication. Like they need one less.
How
Because at
so?
well, like because like a lot of romance, it's like, oh, you meant to say this to me, but I thought you meant this, and they do that a
Hmm.
lot to like keep the romance from actually happening.
Hmm.
And
There's got
okay
to
with
be
that.
tension.
There's
So
there has to be tension, but like I
otherwise, it's
mean,
a boring
like
book.
very big miscommunications that could break you up. If you have
Hmm.
too many of those, I start to think maybe you shouldn't be together.
That's
Like,
fair.
if this keeps happening, it seems like it's a fundamental
Hmm.
failure in the relationship, not just miscommunication.
Hmm.
But with that said,
Okay.
shall we dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay. Do we want to talk about Rand
Yeah,
first?
let's talk about Rand. Okay. I like him.
I like Rand a lot. Like, I'm
What's
sure I won't.
happening?
I don't think we'll keep liking him, but he as a character has grown
I think
so
we will
much.
keep liking him.
I hope so. I hope he does not make any mistakes, but it's Robert Jordan, so my
I
hopes
mean,
are
he's
not high.
bound to make mistakes.
But like he seems to have grown into himself. He's grown into the
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Reborn. He's
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot. He has that like gravitas that comes with all this
Yep.
responsibility. And he's still vulnerable. Like he's still worried about what's
I
going
think
on.
he's still like a humble person too. You know, he
Yeah,
doesn't he even though like Gwyn like thinks everything's gone to his head, and so it is Matt. I I don't think that it has. I think he's still a pretty compassionate person, cares about other people, and he's humble. He hasn't let the whole Dragon Reborn, savior thing get him, on a high horse. I don't know, he's a very likable character right now.
I agree. And like, even when you find out he's like, Matt, you can leave. And then he's like, well, Tavern will take him back when I need him. And
Mhm.
he's sad about that. Like, he's not happy he's doing this to his friend, but he's
Right.
also resigned himself to like, we can't keep fighting this. This is how our lives will
Right.
be. And I'm going to let them go and find happiness for as long as they can because I
He was a
refuse to take
very
this away from him.
frustrating character earlier because he was so against what was happening to him. And now that he's just accepting of it and trying to work with it, it works so much better for the series.
I agree. Uh, but to turn it to something Laura's not going to like to talk about, what
Oh
about
no.
him losing his virginity to
Okay,
Avienda?
I hated that. I I hated it. I hated it.
Tell me more.
But let me just say that it wasn't really Rand's fault or Avienda's fault. It was Robert Jordan's fault because this was just some weird, creepy, like man fantasy. Like, okay, what would be an awesome way to lose your virginity? I know a girl is running around naked in the cold and you have to warm her up. Oh crap, they're in the desert. We can't really make that work. I know. There will suddenly be a portal. He'll walk in on her naked and she will get so upset that she'll make a portal and go out into a blizzard. And then he'll have to warm her up. Like, no, that's just some creepy fantasy Robert Jordan had. And he put that on his characters. And come on. He could have written that a different way and it would have made more sense and not been so stupid.
Agreed. I didn't like that scene. I again at this
He,
point we are in agreement that Avienda makes the most sense for Rand because they've had
yeah.
the most
And you know what?
interaction.
I have ranted before about how I could not stand Avienda with her hopeless I hate you Rand so much screaming all the time when she really just is so hot for him she can't handle herself. But you know what? He really did them dirty with that scene.
Yes.
Like, oh my gosh. He could have handled that whole situation so much better. It could have been like even if he wanted him to like walk in on her changing or whatever, did they really have to go into the snow and he had to pull her out of the water and warm her up and really come on.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this because it's the most
That was the
infuriating
worst.
scene.
That was the worst part of the whole book, honestly.
It was. No,
The
it just
book was great minus that.
yeah, I agree. I thought this was the best book. I rated it at my top. And that relationship consummation or whatever you want to call it just sucks. It's not fun. It wasn't great to read. The fade to black, thank God. 'Cause again, we do not want to hear what Jordan
Uh,
thinks is actually sexy. I'm sure we'll find out, but we're not prepared for that yet. It was
there's
just
not enough
stupid.
time to prepare.
Yeah. So overall, I feel like he and Avienda could make even more sense if Jordan was better at writing romance.
Yeah.
He
Hmm.
gets called out on it all the time. He's
Yeah.
really bad at it. He's
He
not
rushes
good.
relationships.
Yeah.
His enemies to lover thing is horrible. But you know what? His lovers to lovers thing is bad. So
Yeah. Fair point. Fair,
because
fair point.
I mean Elaine and Rand were technically lovers right from the start. And that's even worse than his enemies to lovers.
Well, I did like that he started standing up to himself with Avienda, where he's like, I'm not actually meant for Elaine. Like, she didn't, that's not how it
Other
works.
characters have been pointing that out also.
I know. She just doesn't believe him. I did hate that he had sex with her once and he was like, I guess we're going to get married.
I think it's just a thing. I don't know if he's trying to like impart upon the readers that Rand is now so infatuated with her because they slept together
I don't think
that
that's what
he
it
wants to
is.
get married. I don't know. I guess that's what I was trying, not trying, but I guess that's what I was taking from it that he wanted us to think.
Oh no, I only took it, and I will die on this hill, as Rand's quote unquote such a good guy. He'll do his duty and marry this woman
Oh,
because they had sex, because in their time,
hmm.
that's what happens. And even in Rand's POV, he like
Don't
talks
like
about
that,
like
but
when Nynaeve caught someone with someone else, they made sure they got
that's true.
married. And so
That's
he's
true.
coming from this, like, I'm a good guy. I will do what's right. We had sex. And it's like, Rand, you've been living with the Aiel. At one point, have you not learned that they don't see sex the way you do?
They
And
don't
like,
pay attention to their traditions at all. They they don't.
no, they only pay attention to the traditions like
They pick
when
and
it's good for
choose.
them. Yeah. And that's kind of what annoyed me about Rand in this book, where it's like, okay, I understand that that's how you guys want to do things, but if you wanted to do
Hmm.
things that way, Rand, then you need to communicate with someone.
What?
Like
What?
you can't just like go into it being like, no, 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 she's gonna want exactly what I want. And it's just like, that's not how that works. No, thank
I mean, that's what
you.
he's used to. But
I know, but I hated that part of
all
it because I
women
wish
throw themselves at him
that's
constantly
also true.
and want exactly what he wants.
But it was just a weird way for Robert Jordan to show, like, well, Rand isn't really one of those guys. It's just like, yeah, but
Sure.
Rand's been around them for quite a
He's
bit
not like
now.
the other guys. He's a nice guy.
He'll marry you on duty and duty alone, not love.
Exactly.
And then I was like, Brand, like, what do you think would happen at the end of the day? Like, the next time you saw Elaine, it was going to be like A-okay because you had sex with Avienda first. So she won. Like, it just doesn't make
Hmm.
sense with the way these characters are written that Rand wouldn't have any of those thoughts. Like,
You
it's
know what
just,
I have kind of like laughed about though? Like, what kind of reaction are we gonna get out of Elaine? Like,
oh my God, it's not going to be, she's going to be real mad.
you see, I'm laughing about this like it's a real person, but it's funny because I'm sure Robert Jordan will just butcher this
Yeah.
and how she's gonna react, and I cannot wait for that revelation that
Is
she's
this
going to
because you
have.
still dislike Elaine or just because you're excited to see the drama?
Just the drama, really.
Okay,
It
good.
could be anyone. It
Good.
just
Okay.
happens to be Elaine.
What did we think about his interactions with Asmodian?
I liked him.
Oh, good. I liked their interaction. I really like when,
I was kind of sad that Asmodean was gone
I mean, me
at the
too.
end of this book because I liked Asmodean and I thought that was a really interesting character, and it was really kind of neat to have someone who was a mentor to Rand and that was also shady, like you can't trust him. And I just thought it was really interesting. And then at the end, I was so shocked by that. And I was like, no, I kind of wanted that to go on.
I agree. It was sad. No, cool. Not
It's
cool.
kind of like the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher that they have in every book that dies. We get somebody introduced to us who has to leave at the end of the book.
It's true. I'm sorry we had to go through that. I agree. I
No,
really like, again, I think Robert Jordan does such a good job when it comes to male relationships.
he does do a good job with male relationships. He does a great job with, which I think he writes male characters very well, honestly.
Yes.
And his male relationships are great. And some of the male female ones are okay. But his women are horrible.
I think the problem with him, like, again, we keep saying this, I think the bones on the women are good, which is why people get so invested in
Hmm.
the women, but the substance isn't
It's
there.
it's easy to have strong reactions based on the way that he writes them.
Yes. Agreed.
I'm sorry I cut you off though. What did you think of Asmodean?
I liked him. I like, again, like I said, I just love the way Robert Jordan writes men and their dynamics. Like it's good to watch, and it's good to watch Rand play off someone who doesn't know him
Hmm.
and doesn't obsess
Hmm.
over him. And I liked when Rand like was like, "Can
And
I
who
trust
isn't
him?" There was a lot of back and forth on if you could trust him or
right.
couldn't trust him. So that was good.
And like you said, it's nice that it's not somebody who's like, well, he never used to be like this in Emmons Field. Oh, this is going to his head. It is nice to have somebody that's kind of an outsider, quote
Yeah,
unquote, when it comes to Rand. So yeah, I
agreed.
agree that that's a really good character to have. Sad that he's gone.
I know. I'm very sad. What do we feel about Matt in this series?
I still like Matt.
I'm kind of getting in with Matt. Like I like Matt. He's
I
fun.
know
He's just
he
such a
is
fun
fun.
guy.
I think we see a little more of his whininess again in this book, where he's like, well, I want to leave and I can't leave, and there, like, some of that stuff is okay. You're getting back into your old patterns, Matt. Stop doing that. Where he complains about Rand and stuff like that. I don't appreciate that kind of stuff because it's whiny and unnecessary. But I think overall, as a character, that I do really like Matt, and I think that his chapters are fun, and when he is involved in something, that it's usually kind of exciting and it's fun to read.
He is one of the most fun characters to read about because you're not really sure what's going to happen with him next.
Right.
Like everyone else, we kind of have like a pretty down pat what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could tell that who he was like banging was probably going to be evil just because they started hinting at it. And I was like, oh, who's been hanging around the boys? It's definitely Matt. It's not gonna be Avienda, that's for sure. So, but I love like how he's good at battles and he like keeps trying to be pulled away, but then it's like,
Yeah.
then he killed
Couladin.
He killed Couladin, and it's just like, oh, but then he keeps like denying he killed Couladin. And I think overall it's just like so interesting to watch him grow as a character because he's still growing. Like Rand's pretty much there, Perrin was pretty much always there.
Yeah.
And again, we always talk about how Rand's someone the plot is happening to, but he's working a little bit more with the plot. Perrin's someone who's working to see where his plot is taking him, but we know who his character is. Matt's kind of up in the air. You never know what's going to happen with him or where he's going to go next. We keep hearing little bits and pieces about him, which is also awesome because as you hear little bits and pieces about like, you know, Daughter of the Three Moons, you know, battle savvy.
And stuff about his family too. His background is interesting to me.
Right. You keep getting these little nuggets about Matt, and it's interesting to see when
how it all plays out together.
Yes. And I love that about him, and I'm very into that.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
What
about Tom?
I don't have anything to say about that. Like, good for you for not banging your ex-lover's daughter. Like, I don't.
Good thing you didn't have sex with your daughter.
Are we pretending that Tom's their father now?
Okay. This is gonna be my new thing. Like, I know it's not true, but he kind of hinted at it a little bit, and I'm just not gonna let it go.
Okay.
But Tom is Elaine's father.
You just keep thinking that, Laura.
I'm just gonna not let it go.
Okay. I will let you not let it go.
But I hate the Tom and Elaine relationship, honestly.
It's kind of the worst.
It's so creepy and weird, and I just don't like it. It's too much, and her being like, well, I just needed someone to flirt with. I guess we'll talk about this with Elaine, but it's just creepy and weird, and I don't like it. Tom, stop. You're supposed to be with Maureen. Old people forever.
Old people forever. Heart emoji. Yeah, there's nothing to say.
40-year-olds together forever.
40 and like 80-year-old together.
Okay, you keep jumping his age up because I think like a couple episodes ago you're like, I think he's like 60, and then the last episode you're like, I think he's like 70, and now he's 80.
You know why I keep doing it? Because it's not consistent online either. So I'm just not going to be consistent. It's whatever I feel that day.
The fan art is all over the place. It is
exactly
all over the place.
So I refuse. Like they say at the beginning of the novel,
some of the characters are consistent, but Tom is not.
Well, they say at the beginning of the novel, he like looks like he's like late 70s or something. And then they like downgrade him once he gets further into the plot because they're like, oh, wait, he can't just keep getting older. So then all of a sudden it's like, no. He was like 60 all along. And it's just like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep playing around with his age because Robert Jordan didn't care enough to figure it out. Yeah, so why should I? Yeah, no, thank you.
I will say if he's 80, he's doing great. Keeping up in some of these battles and everything. Good for you, Tom.
Letting Elaine flirt with him.
I wasn't referring to that. I was just like, that is too much. 80-year-olds, stop doing that.
What do you think of Lan in this book?
Of Lan? I don't know. I was a little disappointed with Lan.
I was incredibly disappointed with him. I wanted to have words with him.
I feel like it was one of those things where Lan was kind of just a character that he was just kind of there. And now he's brought in all of a sudden to disappoint us.
Yeah.
What words would you have with him, Hannah?
I would tell him that I'm really disappointed that he doesn't trust Nynaeve enough. Like, it feels like
Mhm.
he doesn't trust her enough to understand what's going on in his life. So he's just like, I'm just going to cut her out and say that I went and found somebody new. And could you tell her
Mhm.
for me? And it's just like, in what world, like, if you love Nynaeve, in what world do you think that's going to work on her? Like, I hate
Mhm.
when people do something like that when it's just like, if you're supposed to be so in love with this character, why would you do that? Why
Right.
wouldn't you just say, like, we need to talk when I see her? And then you guys need to have an actual talk about what
Mhm.
your future looked like. I don't like that Robert Jordan just like assumes women are too dumb to have these conversations with men. Like
You
they
know
get
women.
women be angry. I really liked Lan. You and I said he was the hottest, in
I
our
mean, he's probably still the hottest.
yeah, that's right. But like he was
But
also hot because of his personality and how he was like a
yeah.
strong person to have a good connection with. And he like was always up front with Nene, even if from the
Now
beginning.
Perrin's the hottest. Oh my gosh.
Oh God, I hope not. Parent, no offense to Parent. Parent is still a child.
Yeah, he's a grown man. He has a beard.
No, those are a bunch of 20-year-old boys and I can't take them seriously. And
Fine.
parents
Tom,
just
Tom
build
is the
it.
hottest.
Oh God, no one's the hottest anymore, guys. No one. I guess Lan is the hottest by default. Like I also don't need
Loyal.
a character to, yes, Loyal is the hottest. That is a our podcast announcement. Loyal is now the hottest.
I'm just gonna start suggesting other characters. Actually, it's probably Lane Fair is the hottest, but
I mean, she is the most beautiful woman in the world.
the most beautiful woman in the world.
But not anymore.
Oh, good
But yeah,
riddance.
I just think I was disappointed with Lan because like through it all, he's been very constant. He's been a very like
Mhm.
straightforward character. And I thought with this like last pronouncement to Rand, like, well, I can already feel myself being drawn away. Do me a favor and lie to this woman I love to like let her move on from
Yeah, that's
me.
not a good omen for the relationship.
No.
But
Well, and it just felt like he's always been so straightforward. It felt like he was almost playing with her mind a little bit. And
mhm,
I don't like when that's a character trait that you can't trust your partner enough to be
mhm,
upfront with them.
right.
I am single, guys. I don't know why I have so many insights into what a healthy
No, I think that's
relationship
excellent
looks
insight.
like.
I think that's
But
excellent insight.
I just wish people communicated more.
I was wrong with my prediction that Lan and Nynaeve would be together by book 5. I said multiple times by book 5 they're going to be together. I was wrong,
Oh,
but
I'm sorry.
it was close because Maureen died. But I mean,
I'm
so I
gonna
was
say
halfway there.
I'm gonna say maybe book 7 because she has to become full Aes Sedai, like we learned from
Yep.
Bergie and Elaine. So she has to become full Aes
Mm-hmm.
Sedai before they can get together, and that might take another book or two.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Lan, one of my favorites. You disappointed me, buddy.
Yeah.
Go to your corner and think about what you've done.
He's going. He can feel himself drawn there.
Okay, who's next? Do we have anyone else?
I'm trying to think of who else there is, and I'm drawing a blank.
We like Asmodean. We really liked Asmodean. He was
I wish
great.
Asmodean was back.
I
Why
hate
can we have more of Asmodean and less of Lanfear?
right?
Why did the books play out like that?
I hate all the other dark ones. They're so boring and not fun at all. I don't like them. And I know you're not supposed to like
I
them, but
mean,
like
I don't think they're supposed to be liked.
yeah, but you know how like some people vote for like Cruella Deville or they don't vote for
Or
her. They
like
do not vote for
Ursula,
her.
you're like, oh, she is hopping. Like
I want to replace something. No one votes for Cruella Deville to murder puppies. I feel like we should say that
Oh,
out loud.
I thought you just meant like who has like awesome song that they
Yeah,
sing. Like,
no,
oh
that's
yeah, definitely
people
love
think like
Ursula.
Ursula, Cruella Deville, Scar. It's like, can't we vote for one of these
Hades.
Forsaken? But they're just like, I'm gonna use my mind control on you, and that's my entire personality and why you like me. And it's just like nothing else
I
about
don't
you is
like any of
interesting.
that.
It's not an interesting power to have. I wish there was more political intrigue than just
Mhm.
like, oh, he's taking control of Morgane's mind.
Right.
Ooh, yeah.
Right. More gays.
More
Right.
case. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not going to remember anyone's names. Yeah, I feel like we're getting less and less male characters as the series goes on and
Mhm.
way more female characters.
Do you think that people told Robert Jordan, like, oh, you do a great job writing women?
I hope
And
not.
he was like, oh, I'm going to go all in on this. And so he just started writing them more.
Yeah, because I mean, we could talk about Rudy and we could have talked about like Couladin or whatever his name
But
is.
some of these characters, there's not enough to talk about. Like, if I'm thinking back on the book, I'm like, okay, is there enough about that character that they stand out to me that there's anything to talk about?
Not really. There's nothing. I guess we're done.
I mean, we could talk about Perrin because there's so much from book 4. He wasn't even in this book, and I could still go on from book 4 how awful his relationship was.
Now he's building a house in Emmonsfield, but
Lord Perrin.
But nobody knows what that means. I just love it when
I wonder whose house that is.
I think Robert Jordan's a little too straightforward for us because there is a way to write like Nynaeve saw a house being built in the distance. She hadn't seen it before, and she was curious as to why it would even be built so far out of the confines of Emmonsfield. You know, the way he writes it is just Nynaeve looks at it and she's like, "Who's building that?"
Hey, whose house is that? That wasn't there when I was there last time.
It's just like, we know whose house it is.
Perrin, golden eyes.
Robert Jordan always treats it as if the reader's finding this out for the first time instead of the character.
Character is finding this out.
Every time someone finds out that Tom was in the royal court, it's like the character. It's like,
wait, what? He doesn't look like a bard.
Guess what, readers? Guess what? He was in the royal court. And it's just like, yeah, we know. We've known since like book 1.
Or it's like every time a character sees Perrin recently, they're like, what? He's got a beard? Oh my gosh.
He didn't have that before. And it's just like, this is not shocking to us. It's like, it's okay to say like, wow, he looks different. But like,
or like,
not to
wow,
say,
he has golden eyes. That's unique.
Or Perrin has aged so much since the last time I've seen him. He looks battle torn. He hasn't shaved in days. Like there's so many different ways to describe. He has a beard.
Like, oh my gosh, got a beard.
So just
I kind of think that's a funnier way to go at it though. Like especially if I'm saying it in like that dude bro bot voice where people are coming across Perrin and just like, what? Oh. A beard.
He has a beard. Like what? Yeah. It's
my gosh.
I think it's better for this podcast that he keeps repeating himself because now you and I can't stop repeating ourselves. But yeah, I think overall there are less and less men to talk about because here's the problem. They keep getting more fleshed out. And oftentimes they just add in more women. So then women never get fleshed out. So that is my one complaint.
Just add in some more Aes Sedai.
Just add in some more women. That's called progress. None of them have an actually different personality, but they're there. And like 2/3 of them are getting cut out in the TV series. So.
Oh, disappointment with these circumstances.
Frustrations with these new circumstances. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that'll wrap up our episode. It's a good thing we gave you so much on Disney and Twilight and Harry Potter.
Yeah, I mean,
Brooklyn Nine-Nine at the top.
Come for the first half and head out early.
If you have an opinion on any of the men in the Fires of Heaven, please reach out to us at OWWRpod on Instagram or Twitter, or you can email us at owwrpod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear
your Wheel of Time fan fiction.
Please send us your Wheel of Time fan fiction. We beg of you. That's something we really want to
read.
Or
some good ones that you come across. I need them in my life.
And again, if you are a podcaster, reach out to us if you want to read some with us because that sounds fun. But also feel free to reach out to us about anything. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast. Rating, reviewing, and subscribing helps us reach out to other listeners who are fans of Wheel of Time fan fiction. And we will see you next week to talk about the women in Wheel of Time Fires of Heaven. Bye.
Bye.